God of War 2 is a game about which I have very mixed feelings. While being many a PS2 fan's favorite in the entire series, it is by far the one I struggle with the most. In many ways, I found this to be the perfect sequel to 2005's masochistic masterpiece. Environments, visuals, and overall look of the entire game have taken a big step forward. The music is better, combat is better, and we have more options. There's a grappling hook, climbing is less tedious, and in my opinion, the story is far more intriguing. I love the variety of beautiful backgrounds, how many unique types of gameplay there are, and the staggering cinematic feel. It's downright amazing this wasn't a PS3 game. They squeezed every possible drop of performance out of the PlayStation 2, and it absolutely shows. From just about every standpoint, it is a better game than what came before it. Every way, except one. Or two. Or 30. It can be confusing sometimes. Highlighting didn't exist in any way, shape, or form back here, and while some puzzles actually benefit from this, making them very satisfying to solve, some dead ends became full stops for me. I had to look up what to do on the internet. My shame is immeasurable. But can you blame me? Look at this button you're supposed to stand on. Do you see it? I didn't either, it's right here. I simultaneously adore the grappling hook, love the slow time mechanic, appreciate the refreshing atmosphere, and never want to play it again. I know it sounds like I'm sending a lot of mixed signals, but that dichotomy is the best way I can describe my experience with God of War 2. That push and pull was exactly what I felt the entire time. I know this is a great game, I'm glad I played it, and I'm just as glad it's over. There are more possible attacks, all of which are more effective, 4 new spells I actually use, 4 different weapons I like each of individually more than the Blade of Artemis, and I still don't want to play it again. We have a more interesting story told in a more linear fashion that references past events, takes surprising liberties with its characters, and sets up a sequel in the most perfect way I can imagine. And I still don't want to play it again. I do, however, admire the commitment to Kratos and who he is as a character. Spoilers, I guess. He's still a raging asshole, making things harder for himself by ceaselessly destroying cities and expanding Spartan territory. He even insists on the continued path of violence despite being warned against it desperately by Athena herself. By the way, Athena is a physical person now and she looks like this. Part of the explanation we're given for Kratos being such a dweeb is that he's still haunted by his nightmares and holds the other gods responsible. And he's got a point. The good news is the almighty Zeus, king of the gods, sees that point and decides to help Kratos, giving him a mighty weapon to defeat his enemies. The Blade of Olympus, the coolest thing in this game for me. All we need to do is to drain all of our godly powers into the sword, and it's a trick. It's a trick. Zeus just takes the sword and kills you with it. Yeah, it's brutal. You almost feel bad, but probably not. And by the way, Zeus is also a physical person now, and he looks like this. Along with Zeus, we're introduced to his backstory as well as the war against Kronos and the other titans. I love Greek mythology, so I found this to be a lot more exciting as an original story. It deals a lot more with direct heroes and mythological figures on a personal level, rather than as references and giant energy faces. We even get our first shots of the rest of the Pantheon we'll eventually fight in 3. As both a sequel and a predecessor, it works tremendously well, and not just from the story perspective, it also introduced grappling hook sections, which, by the way, we need 1,000 of in Ragnarok. More epic boss fights, one of which nets you a sweet hammer upon completion, and I would say it's even more brutal than the original. Which in this case is a good thing, I'm playing God of War. But you know what's more brutal than anything Kratos has ever done to a living soul? The fact that to play this game I had to pay for a higher tier of PlayStation Plus. You cannot buy it from the PlayStation Store, it must be streamed. It's literally locked off unless you subscribe to a monthly service. There is no way to just download the game and play it anytime. And I have an occasionally atrocious internet connection, so there were nights I wanted to chip away at it and make progress so that I could write this review and make this video, but I just had to wait. Especially now of all times, I imagine these games would sell, like, well, copies of the original God of War trilogy. Despite all the flaws I've mentioned so far, none are actual deal breakers for me, at least not on their own. After all, I did persist to the end and I liked a lot about the game. The main reason I won't go back to level up the Blade of Olympus on New Game Plus is that I absolutely cannot do those quick time events again. There are dozens of other little things like how fast Gorgons can freeze you, how small the windows are on certain timed puzzles, how hard the camera makes it to climb onto this tentacle, but I think I could make myself do those things again. I didn't even mind the 2 flying sections, they were fine. Neat little pace changes even. Now I think about it, the straw that broke this particularly dehydrated camel's back doesn't matter at all. The fact that I feel so beaten down that I refuse to play a 13-hour game again is sad no matter how you slice it. I hope it isn't annoying that I'm just complaining, but I feel a profound need to justify my contempt. Just take this part with the Phoenix statue and fire waves and infinite enemies. Who enjoys this? And why? No, seriously, please explain why. I feel like an alien and I actually lack the capacity to understand. At least we're not mashing R2 anymore, it's all circle now. If you enjoyed the Ocelot torture sequence in Metal Gear Solid, I have great news, you're gonna love God of War 2. I know I sound cynical, and that's never my intention, but it's important for me I stay as honest as possible and not write reviews based on other people's opinions and experiences. But just because I didn't love it now the way I'd remember doesn't mean I still wasn't able to take away things I appreciated. I would even say I recommend it as an extremely well-made action game that shows off the PS2 and probably also makes you physically stronger from mashing circle so much. They fixed a lot of flaws from the first game. It's very nearly an across-the-board improvement. More fleshed out, much less oppressive to look at, more effective combos and attack options, memorable boss fights, a more engrossing story, and its ending is the best setup for a sequel maybe ever. And the longer I have to think about it, really, if I end my review right now, I don't have to talk anymore or play it again for a long time. Or at least that's how it appeared. I have since beaten it again. I went back and played the entire game again. I couldn't just leave it like that. I was upset that I didn't enjoy it very much, and to be honest, I still didn't enjoy all of the things that I said I didn't enjoy the first time, but I found more things to like about it. I still like the graphics, I still like the story, I love the Blade of Olympus and all the New Game Plus settings. Being able to pick up our game and get like infinite red orbs was a very cool thing. Icarus Wings are awesome. I wish I mentioned Icarus Wings earlier. Overall, I felt like the writing was really strong. It's a good game. I recommend it. I just also found it really frustrating, and everything else I said in the review still stands. So, yeah. It's really gonna be over now, I swear. Bye!